So today I am ranking every area from Dark Souls 1, with an apostrophe on the every. I will be ranking them on two different scales, how difficult they are, or at least how difficult they were for me. Maybe some areas I breezed through, while many people found very difficult. I will also be ranking them on how fun they were for me. Again, for me, not for everybody. There's one area I know of that many people hate, but I quite like. I'll be ranking on both these scales. So not necessarily what I think is the best area. The best area, I think, should be on the fun side. But for difficulty, it depends on the area. And I'll talk a bit about what I mean when I get to further examples. Now, the reason there's the apostrophe on the every, apostrophe asterisk, is because I did not play the Dark Souls 1 DLC, so I'm not including any DLC areas in this ranking. This is only the base game Dark Souls 1 areas that I will be ranking. I don't think there's too much else I should talk about. I guess a few little things I can touch on. Difficulty's up and down, so the higher up it is, the more difficult it is. Fun is left-right. The further to the right, the more fun it is. In general, I think the best areas will be in the top right corner, where, and this is, I have not ranked these, so I don't know for certain how well this will hold up. I think the best areas are the ones that are very difficult but remain fun, and the worst ones are the difficult ones that aren't fun. If something's not fun or hard, you kind of just get it over with, rip off the band-aid, go, oh well. If it's fun and easy, well, at least it's fun. And if it's fun and hard, then it's why everybody loves the Souls games, I think. But without further ado, let's get into this. So the first one we're starting with is the Undead Asylum. This is the tutorial area, although I'm guessing everybody knows this. I guess I should touch on this now. Spoiler warning for Dark Souls 1. Base game, not DLC, I know. So the Undead Asylum, this is not its ranking, I think, is pretty, honestly, one of the best tutorials of any game I've played. It's fun. The way you kind of loop around is cool. Even when you go back there later to fight Stray Demon, get the Painted Doll, and kill the Black Knight, it's kind of a cool area. I don't think it's high up on fun, though, because there's no real fun thing to do. It's cool. You see the Asylum Demon, you fight it the first time, you fight the Stray Demon when you come back. The Barrel Guy is fun. I guess more boulder in that area. Difficulty-wise, I think it's also lower. So I may move this around later, but I'm going to put it right in the middle for fun. It turns out my initial location was pretty good. And honestly, pretty low on difficulty. Because this area is not meant to challenge you. You lose to Asylum Demon once, come back, beat it again. Even without the drop down, I managed to beat it on my second try. So the next area is Firelink Shrine. This is the calm area, so it's going to be very low on difficulty. It's going to be at the bottom. I can tell you that right now. How fun is Firelink Shrine? It's got a lot of different areas, so it's kind of fun to explore around. But there's not too much to it. I did consider leaving Firelink Shrine out because it doesn't have enemies. It does have NPCs, so it's kind of cool going around talking to the NPCs. But there's a lot of really fun areas. I don't think this is a fun part of the game. I don't think this is a hard part of the game. But it's there, and it's not, like, poorly executed. So I think it goes a bit below Undead Asylum in terms of fun and very bottom of difficulty. No other area will be as easy as Firelink Shrine. Next up is the Undead Burg. The Undead Burg is the first part of the game that made me go, oh, this is what Dark Souls is. So it's definitely going above these two in terms of difficulty. I guess another thing I could touch on, when I talk about difficulty, I mean relative difficulty. Of course, the Undead Burg is easier than the late game areas. But for when you encounter the area, I think the Undead Burg is a relatively high difficulty. So I'm going to be ranking difficulty based on how hard I found it when I got there. Another thing of note is I was not as good at the game when I started playing. Dark Souls 2, that was less of a factor, but in Dark Souls 1, I was new to Dark Souls. I didn't know the mechanics properly. I still used a shield in the Undead Burg. I guess I could briefly touch on that. For this entire game, from most of Undead Burg onwards, I guess from this my second attempt on the Taurus Demon onwards, I only ever used two-handing a big weapon. I never used a shield, ranged weapon, no summons. I just went through on my own with a big weapon. It was the halberd for most of the game. I used a sword for Undead Burg, of course, before I had the halberd. Once I got the halberd, I used that, and then I got the Drake sword. Used the Drake sword and halberd interchangeably for a while, and finally got the Dragon Tooth and used that for the rest of the game. But Undead Burg was difficult. It was not absurdly difficult, so it's not the very top, but it was high on difficulty. How fun was Undead Burg? Honestly, there wasn't that much to it. It was mostly just go through, fight the enemies, a lot of very similar enemies, find the shopkeep, and I think I consider Undead Parish starting after Taurus Demon. I think that's where it technically starts. So I'm counting Dragon Bridge as Undead Parish. So I think it's pretty low on fun, and pretty high on difficulty. I'll put it here. Is it more fun than Fire? I think less. I think Undead Burg is less fun. This area didn't grab me. I wasn't crazy about this game. Undead Parish, on the other hand, is also tough. Not as tough as Undead Burg, but a lot of fun. This is the first area where you're finding those shortcuts. You have that whole Dragon Bridge where you have to do the sprint to get to the bonfire. It was so cool. This is the area that made me fall in love with Dark Souls. Undead Burg, I was on the fence about whether I wanted to keep playing. Once I got through Undead Parish, I knew I was beating the game. So for me, Undead Parish was very high on the fun scale and reasonable in difficulty. So I'm gonna put it here. Next up is the Depths. So the Depths, I'm not Undead Burg. I'm also counting Lower Undead Burg, which honestly lowers the fun, raises the difficulty a bit. Now that I think about Lower Undead Burg, the Depths and the sewers contained in the Depths. Going into the Depths wasn't particularly fun getting there, but once I got in there, I didn't mind fighting the rats. They were fair enemies, I found. And then I fell into the sewers, and it was terrifying. And those basilisks were jumping all over the place, but I killed them, and they didn't curse me, and I had a blast. I love the Depths. That being said, I didn't find them very hard. So I think they are below the line in terms of difficulty. I think above Asylum. Are they above Asylum? No. I died a few times in Undead Asylum. I'm putting that higher up. I'm putting that a bit higher there and putting Depths below it. But is it more or less fun than the Undead Parish? And I'm not including whatever the boss fight is like in any of this. Boss fights are completely separate. So I'm not talking about the Taurus Demon. I'm not talking about the Gargoyles. I'm not talking about the Capra Demon. I'm not talking about Gaping Dragon for Depths. I'm just talking about the areas. I think it was less fun than the Undead Parish. So I'm going to put it here. I think that seems like a fair spot. I'm looking at the other areas. I think that's fair. Darkroot Garden. This is, I guess, everywhere before you go off to the right, and I guess everywhere up to Sif. Sif? Yeah, Sif, the dog. Sif, good boy. So the first part of this area is really easy. Like, it's not at all a problem. But the second half of the area, I died a few times there. There are some tough enemies. Fun, though? I think this is a low on the fun scale. And I think this goes right around the middle in terms of difficulty. Is it more or less fun than the Burg? Honestly, this wasn't a fun area at all. There's nothing fun about it. Putting it over here. Darkroot Garden is a pretty bad area. Or boring area. Darkroot Basin. The whole way down, I enjoy the way down. I think that's a really cool route and path. The Hydra fight, I will count because it's not a boss. Really cool fight. I loved the first Hydra fight more than the second one, which I'll get to in a bit with Ash Lake. I did like how you open the door and you're like, wait, where does this lead to? And then you find Havel. And you're like, wait, this connects? Also, the other back entrance to Darkroot Garden, fine. So Darkroot Basin, I think, is kind of cool. Is it more or less fun than the Asylum? I think it's comparable to the Asylum. Difficulty-wise, I think it's a bit tougher than the Garden. And I'm going to put it a little bit above the Asylum in terms of fun. So I'm going to put it about there. Not as hard as the... Actually, I'm going to put it... Yeah, no, I'm going to put it there. I'm going to put it there. These can change later. Oh boy, next is Blighttown. Well, I can tell you one thing. This is the hardest area yet. Because at this point, like... At this point in the game, you're into the game. You know what you're doing. And it still almost made me rage quit. And then I found out Poison Guy's perma-die, and then I just loved the area. Fun? It's cool. I love the aesthetic of Blighttown. The lower area isn't at all fun, though. Like, there's nothing fun about running through the poison swamp. I don't hate it, but it's not fun. And the other parts aren't fun, either. But it's kind of cool going down. I'm going to leave this on the low on the fun side. I'm going to lower Firelink Shrine on fun. I think Firelink Shrine is less fun than Blighttown. I think I'm going to put Blighttown there. I may move it up to max difficulty. But I'm not. I'm not moving Blighttown up to quite max difficulty. Not like Firelink's at minimum. Kalehag's Domain. This is another very easy one, because there's not really much in it. It's kind of an interesting... You get into Kalehag's Domain, you're kind of disgusted by everything there. You fight Kalag. Then on the other side, there's this kind of weird ruins, the invisible wall and the thing there. I think it's less fun than Firelink, and slightly harder because there is a few enemies. I'll put it above the Darkroot Garden, below Undead Burg for that. And yeah, and just enough so you can tell it's above Firelink. Like, it's the other really easy area. Great Hollow, so the whole tree on the way down. It's an area that I look back, I'm like, yeah, it's not that hard to get down the tree, but I died a lot doing it. And everything I've seen, everybody dies a lot doing it. I think it's comparable with like Darkroot Base and Undead Parish. It is not as hard as Undead Burg or Blighttown in my opinion. So it's gonna be somewhere around here. And again, these all may shift down later. I'll see how I feel. Fun-wise? Okay, it is fun going down the tree. It's a lot of fun going down the tree. Is it more or less fun than the Depths? I'm gonna put it at slightly more fun than the Depths. So I think Great Hall is a lot of fun, fairly difficult too, despite the enemies not being a major threat. Next is Ash Lake. Ash Lake wasn't very hard. You just kind of run past everything. Or you're strong enough and you fight everything. So honestly, pretty low on the difficulty scale. I'm going to put it below the Depths, I think, for difficulty. Fun? There isn't really much in Ash Lake. The Hydra fight was just worse here, I found. So I'm putting it pretty low on fun. Does it beat Darkroot Garden? For fun. Like, Darkroot Garden, Kalag's Domain. It is kind of cool running through it all, so I'm going to put it around... Okay, I need to move Undead Burg a bit further forward. For fun, because Undead Burg is definitely, I think, between Ash Lake, Firelink. Now, some of these will be the same, and close enough, it doesn't matter. Sens. Ho ho! Actually, no, I'm going to do Valley of Drake before Sens. Cursed my previous order. I'm doing Valley of Drakes before Sens Fortress. Valley of Drakes, there's nothing fun there. There was nothing fun about Valley of Drakes. It's just a between area. It's difficult? Yeah, there's some tough... The dragons aren't the easiest to fight. I'll put it on par with Great Hollow, and honestly, minimum on the fun scale. Sens. I mean... how difficult... Ooh, Sens is tough. Sens is really tough, actually. But it's very fun. Sens is super fun, super cool to go through. I think... Is it harder or easier than Blighttown? I think it's slightly easier than Blighttown. But I'd put it very difficult. Speaking of very difficult, Anor Londo. I don't know how everybody feels about Anor Londo as an area, but I love it. I love Anor Londo. That being said, is it fun? not as much as any of these areas. It cannot compete with the depths even for fun. But if I compare it to things that are fun for the enemies, for the way you go around and stuff, I think like that's what these ones are. These ones are cool because of how you get around and who you fight. This is just how you get around. Move it forward a bit for fun. I think Anor Londo is the best of those. It's really cool the way you're running around the rooftops, you're opening the gates, finding the whole blacksmith is super cool. I loved running around Anor Londo. So I think Anor Londo is going to go right around these. But difficulty-wise, is it above or below Sent in Blighttown? I think it's above. Those archers and those big guards, they are terrifying. It took me forever to kill them. And then you figure the optional boss. And then it's low on difficulty. So no one there. I'm gonna only consider Anor Londo when it's full Anor Londo. Everything is happening. It is a lot of challenges you need to conquer once. Send in Blighttown. Sends you have to conquer every challenge every time until you kill the guy dropping boulders. Or sorry, throwing fire bombs. Honestly, he wasn't even a threat. He was more the boulder guy. With Anor Londo, I think I'm gonna put it on par with Sens at least. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it with Sens. Because I think the thing with Anor Londo is other than the two archers, there was no one part, there was nothing really difficult about the area. There were it was tough. It was not an easy area apart from that. But I think that's the only really hard part. Next is the Painted World. Now this one, I may not be able to give the best thoughts on, because I did this area after I had all 4 Lord Souls. I didn't realize how to get there, because how the heck are you supposed to realize how to get there until way later in the game? So, I did it at a very high level with great gear. That being said, there were still challenging parts of it. Fun-wise, I think it's on par with, like... Does it really... it has some okay shortcuts. I think it's on par with, like, Anor Londo for that. And difficulty, it's tough. I'm going to put it on par with Undead Burg, so I'm going to put this right below Anor Londo. Still very... Just as fun, slightly less difficult, because there's no one part that was really difficult. I'm actually going to put it more here. I'm gonna leave it there for now. But these two are very interesting to compare, actually. Alright, Demon Ruins. Low on the fun scale. I can tell you that right now. There's nothing really fun about the Demon Ruins. What is there to talk about with Demon Ruins? You gotta go through, fight a bunch of enemies, fight a boss, fight another boss, not considering the bosses. So fighting the enemies, it's tough, not that bad. It's more like Darkroot Basin level difficulty, Darkroot Garden level. Fun, it's very low. Is it better than the Garden? No. I don't think I could say Demon Ruins is more fun than Darkroot Garden. So I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it, I'm actually gonna put it here and move Darkroot Garden there. Darkroot Garden, I'm gonna say, is a little bit more fun, very slightly easier. There, that seems better. Lost Izalith. This area is more interesting. It's more fun than the Demon Ruins, I think. But difficulty-wise, it's way easier. So I think difficulty, Lost Izalith is down with the depths for me. Which I think, honestly, I should move up a bit. Maybe I'll put this below the depths. I'm gonna put this below the depths. And fun-wise, it's pretty low on fun. It's interesting. I'm gonna put it, Ash Lake, which is more fun. Ash Lake or Lost Izalith. I think Lost Izalith is a bit more fun. So I'm gonna put you there, move the depths up a little bit in terms of difficulty. And fun. Catacombs. This is an interesting one, because I had 3 different experiences with the Catacombs. Number 1, and I think this is a common one, I got to Fireling Shrine and tried going in. That wasn't fun. That was very difficult. Then, after ringing the gargoyle bell, went back to Fireling Shrine and tried going into the catacombs. That was very difficult and not fun at all. And then I went in after I had 3 Lord Souls and absolutely obliterated the entire area. None of those 3 were particularly fun. The third one was the most fun, but it's definitely below Blighttown for fun. Difficulty? That's tough to rank. It's really tough to rank this one. I think I put it in the middle, because it all depends when you do it. Why is Darkroot Garden and Demon Ruins that high for difficulty? I'm going to put it here, and move these all down a bit. There. Tomb of Giants. It's not fun. It's very difficult. Was it the most difficult area for me? I have to decide, does it deserve to be the top of difficulty? It's absolutely the minimum of fun. You know what? Valley Drakes wasn't unfun. These ones weren't unfun. Like, they were just not positive, they weren't negative. This was negative. Was it the most difficult? Yeah. Yeah, it was. Alright, perfect. Tomb of Giants is easy. I'm actually gonna move this even further left on fun. Just to kind of emphasize that. It shouldn't have a fun rating. Because if it does, why would you ever go back to it? New Londo Ruins. This was an interesting area. This was the 3rd Lord Soul I did? Yeah, 3rd. I believe. And, first was Demon Ruins, 2nd was, Duke's. 3rd Londo Ruins, final was Tomb of Giants. And I liked it. I enjoyed going through here. The area itself wasn't unfun. And more akin to these ones, where it was fine. Not as good as Blighttown. You had shortcuts, but you didn't really use them, other than the run back, which was way too long of a run back. If they put a bonfire, say, in the middle of the ruins, I think it would have been much more enjoyable. So I think it's going to go right around Catacombs in terms of fun. Difficulty? I'm going to rank it a bit above Catacombs in terms of difficulty. I think that's a good benchmark. It's around there. Why is it... No, it's not that, I think that's about the right spot for it. Duke's Archives. I love the Duke's Archives. They are high on the fun scale. Because you first get in, and it's fine when you first get in. And then you fight Thief, and you die. And you go to the prison. And that prison was one of the highlights of the entire game for me. I loved the prison. And then after that, you're in the other area. There's a lot of enemies. I killed them all, and then just ran around the area and had fun again. So it's high on fun, but honestly, not that high on difficulty for me. I'm putting it below, like, the bar. Is it Sen's level fun? I don't think anything's Sen's level fun. But that prison sequence. You know what? I'm putting it at Sen's level fun. I take back. It is Sen's level fun for me. I loved Duke's Archives. Crystal Cave? I enjoyed Crystal Cave. I thought it was cool. I didn't find the invisible bridges too much of a problem. The butterflies were weird. I didn't even have to fight them ever. The giant crystal guys weren't too bad. Sometimes, the biggest problem I had with Crystal Cave was where you can walk and where you couldn't. The slants were so similar, you couldn't tell. But it was, as a whole, on the fun side. I don't think it hits these levels. I think it's right in here, right at this gap. Difficulty? It was tough. Tougher than Duke's Archives, I think. Darkroot Basin? No. I think it's right on the line for that. I think that's a good spot for Crystal Cave. Finally, we have the Kiln of the First Flame. This area, it's just a bunch of Black Knights and some thin ledges. The thin ledges aren't a thing, but they're kind of cool. I think it's in this realm of fun. Where the fights aren't as fun as like Darkroot Base. I think it's around Blighttown fun. No, it's not quite Blighttown fun. I keep moving Blighttown up board fun. I think it's in this gap for fun. Difficulty? It's tough. I think it goes here. Yeah, it's not absurd, but you're going to die a couple times. I think that's a really fair spot for it. So, I have now ranked every area in Dark Souls 1 in terms of the difficulty and the fun. Do I want to do any adjustments? So let's go difficulty. Tomb of Giants is the hardest area, then Blighttown. And I can move things up and down a bit. Then Anor Londo and Sens. I'm going to put Sens above Anor Londo. What the heck? Like, Sens was very difficult. Anor Londo was difficult. Sens was more consistently difficult than Anor Londo for me. So Sens I'm putting slightly tougher. Then Painted World, Kildenberg. I think it's kind of poetic and funny to put Kilden and Undeadburg at the same difficulty, and I think it makes sense. I actually think Painted World was a bit tougher, though. And it was cool, but personally, less fun than Anor Londo. So I think that's a really good... move these two up a little bit, but not much. I think that's a really good spot for those three. Great Hollow, New Londo Ruins, and Valley of Drakes. Of those three, I think New Londo Ruins is the easiest. So I think I move these two up a bit. Undead Parish. It's tough. Undead Parish is tough, but really fun. I think it's about the same level, actually, as New Londo Ruins. So I'm going to move it up to with New Londo Ruins. Catacombs. Darkroot Basin, Demon Ruins. Catacombs are the hardest of the three. Then Basin, then Demon Ruins. Yeah, Darkroot Garden isn't actually bad. Demon Ruins, Crystal Cave. I'm going to move Demon Ruins right on the line. I'm also going to put Crystal Cave right on the line. I'm going to move it... Painted World level of fun. I think Painted World's actually pretty much perfect for Crystal Cave fun. Darkroot Garden... No, it's easier than that. It's easier than Duke's Archives. I think Duke's Archives deserves to go up a bit. Honestly, is that the same difficulty level? Now that I think about it, is Crystal Cave actually harder than Duke's Archives? No. Not really. The difficulty is less consistent as well. Once you've figured it out once, it's not really hard ever again. Duke's Archives is still tough if you go through it again, I think. So I'm going to put those three at the same difficulty, but just different levels of fun. Darkroot Garden's a bit easier. Undead Asylum, I think that's a really good spot for it. And this Undead Asylum, I think, is at the perfect line where I would say it's an easy area that doesn't feel easy to go through. You go through it and you aren't saying this is too easy, but it's not actually hard. Darkroot Garden, I think, is at exactly the same level. No, the second half of it's actually a bit tough. So I'm going to leave Darkroot Garden where it is. So anything below Undead Asylum, I should say I found this easy when going through it. Anything above, I definitely didn't. None of these I found easy going through, except Catacombs because I was over-leveled and had already killed the first half of the area and figured out the gimmicks. Depths. Depths is at that level. Depths is harder than that level. Depths is a Darkroot Garden level. I marked that way too easy. Lost Easlith. Yeah, that was too easy. Was there a challenge to it? Yeah, the Lava Lake area was not the easiest. But it was still fairly easy. Ash Lake, pretty easy. Kalog's Domain, there's nothing Firelink. It's the easiest area in the game. Perfect. I think difficulty-wise, my scale's done. Fun. Sens and Duke's Archives are the most fun. I can move Sens back just so they're even, and that way I don't cover up the word fun. No, stay even. So they're the two most fun. Then Undead Parish. I love Undead Parish. Then Great Hollow, the Depths, and Anor Londo. I'm going to move Great Hollow back. Great Hollow was fun, but not that fun. I'm going to move the depths forward. And Anor Londo even with the depths. Great Hollow, though, does beat out Painted World and Crystal Cave. I think Painted World slightly beats Crystal Cave. Basin? Blighttown, no Blighttown. Painted World a little bit more to the right. Crystal Cave a little bit more to the left. Darkroot Basin. You know what? Darkroot Basin, I think, and Undead Asylum are a good middle ground. These are areas that were enjoyable, but not too much to talk about in terms of fun. And but they were enjoyable. Killed of the First Flame. It's kind of a satisfying area to go through. Like Undead Burg. I don't want to put Kill of the First Flame and Undead Burg exactly on top of each other because then you can't see them. New Londo, Ruins, Firelink. I think Firelink's in a good spot there. I'm gonna move Firelink a bit further to the right. I think Kiln's too high on fun. Kiln needs to go down. I think Burg actually is more fun than Kiln. And so is New Londo. I think New Londo Ruins is the next most fun area. So I'm going to put Undead Burg right there. And Kiln right there. Perfect. Catacombs, where do you fit in? I think you fit in with Kiln. And Los Izalith is slightly below those. Ash Lake. Ash Lake's on par with Lost Izalith for fun. Kaleg's Domain, Darkroot Garden are fine. Demon Bruins Valley of Drakes, negative. Tomb of Giants, completely unfun, horrible area. Alright, I think I have my final layout. It's interesting, there's very few fun and easy. And I think that kind of makes sense. You don't think, if you just go through an area quickly, you don't really appreciate it. Now this being said, fun is not necessarily my favorite. This is not my favorite areas on either scale. This is simply how fun I found the area. If I were to pick out my absolute favorite areas in the game, well, I can tell you my least favorite is Tomb of the Giants, in case that wasn't obvious enough. But my other absolute favorite areas, no. Definitely no. I really don't like Catacombs. Definitely no. Don't like Valley of Drakes. Kiln, no. Undead Burg, New Londo Ruins, no. Darkroot Basin, I think I honestly like less than these two. It's less interesting. Even if I found it maybe more fun. Undead Asylum, no. Crystal Cave, no. So that leaves this area. These are definitely most of my favorites. Great Hollow is my least favorite of all these. Followed by Painted World. I think I would enjoy Painted World a lot more if I'd gone through it at a lower level. Without being at the end game. I also may not have. I may have found it a lot more difficult, and may have found that detract from it. So if we take Depths, Duke's Archives, Undead Parish, Blighttown, Anor Londo, and Sense Fortress. First of all, that has a lot of the most iconic areas in the game. I think because of the second half of Blighttown, the whole swamp, it's the worst of those. But the first half of Blighttown, I love. I appreciate Blighttown for everything that it is, but I can't say it's my favorite because of the second half. And honestly, at this point, I don't know how I liked Blighttown. I hated Blighttown going through it. The first half. Okay. Once I got to the first bonfire in Blighttown, I liked it. That was what it took. Until I got there, I didn't like it. I liked going down that next area. Then I think Undead Parish, honestly. Like, Undead Parish is what made me love the game, but it wasn't like... But looking back, I'm like, no, it wasn't as good as the other areas. These last 4. The Depths. The Depths was, I think, my favorite just run through the area. But the lack of difficulty, for me, means I don't think I can rank it with these other 3. And honestly, of these 3 areas, Sens is my least favorite. Despite the fact it's the top of difficulty, top of second highest of difficulty, top of fun, I don't like it as much as Anor Londo or Duke's Archives. What made it fun was kind of, oh, that's really cool. But it didn't quite have the oomph factor that somehow it didn't. I feel like it should, but and I don't. Yeah, I still think Anne Orlando is my favorite area. I think Anne Orlando is my favorite area in the game, despite how difficult it is, and how there's no cool factor of Sen's Fortress, Duke Archives. The shortcuts don't like the rotating thing. Isn't what I like about Anne Orlando. But I think Anne Orlando is my favorite area in the game, followed probably by Duke's Archives, Sen's Fortress, Depths, Undead Parish, Blighttown. So in general, I do like more fun is very good, important for me. So is but difficulty is important too. But clearly, it's not just about either. There's more to it than that. But no, I think that's all I really have here. I'm curious. I wish I'd been able to play the DLC, because then I would have more to talk about. I could put more areas on here. But I really think this sums up how I felt about most areas in the game. If you have any thoughts, let me know. I'm curious what other people think about these areas. If, for example, I'm sure some people do not find Duke Archives fun. Or some people maybe find Undead Burg. I'm sure a lot of people like Undead Burg a lot more than I do. Or like the Undead Asylum more. Maybe some people like Dark to the Catacombs for some reason. But yeah, no, I'm curious what other people think, and let me know if you have any thoughts on where you think the DLC would fit based on my thoughts. I will also be doing this for all Dark Souls 1 bosses, Dark Souls 2 areas and bosses, eventually Dark Souls 3. Have to play the game first. But no, this is I think that'll do it for today. All right, have a great day, everyone.